All right, so welcome to everybody. So happy you guys came on tonight, and I am really jazzed about this particular Zoom that we're going to do tonight because we are going to be talking about fascia. And fascia is just, I like to say, sorry, I kind of like to play a little pun words with my words, but it is fascinating because it is such a huge subject. And, interestingly enough, it's only been in the last maybe 10 years that the anatomists and the doctors and scientists have even really been recognizing the huge impact and the importance of fascia. Up till now, it's kind of like they would go to cut into cadavers to learn and to teach, and they would take the fascia basically and kind of pull it off and get rid of it so they could get to the good stuff. So for those of you that don't really even know what is fascia, fascia is connective tissue. That's essentially what it is. And fascia, now listen to this, fascia connects everything in the body. It is intertwined into everything. It connects it all and it separates everything. Now think about that. Even the bones, I never realized that with our bones in our skeleton, did you realize that the bones aren't connected directly to each other? They are connected through the fascia. So the fascia connects them and separates everything. It's so amazing that if you took away your fascia, we would just be like a puddle on the ground because the fascia is the casing that holds everything up and together. And if you're still not like, what, I don't quite get that, you can think about, whenever we would maybe cut up a chicken, right? And you pull the skin up off the chicken if you're trying to de-skin something, and there's that membrane, I'll call it that, that's right there, and we kind of have to pull the membrane up from the skin to get to the rest of it. Well, that's fascia. Isn't that fascinating? So our fascia is, I get so excited about it. I have to slow down and start to think about what else to say. Connective tissue. Think about ligaments and tendons. It's even through every one of our muscles. So frequently, when we end up having what we think is muscular pain or unexplained pain that also moves around the body, what is that? That is typically our fascia. Now, the fascia works in layers. So it's in layers, let's just say through all the muscle, because we're going to be talking a lot about muscle and working that all through the muscle. And it slides and glides. It's hydrated. And I'm going to show you a picture of what it looks like under a microscope. It's fascinating. And it's has liquid, like a liquidy gel inside, sliding and gliding. And that's when you have healthy fascia. Everything is working beautifully through it. Everything in the body is covered, sliding and gliding. It's all good. But what happens if we have an injury? Or if we're just not moving a lot and we're sitting like this all the time, that fascia gets bound up and dehydrated and basically almost creates an armor. When we get stressed out, same thing happens. The fascia gets thick and gooey and just armors up. And when that happens and it tightens up, that's again where we can end up with pain. Now, how can we release the fascia and get some good hydration? Through heat and through movement. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We can heat the fascia with our wand and include the frequencies, which is just another huge added benefit that I'm so excited to introduce to us along with the movement. So from there, before we actually get started doing the movement, I'm going to share my screen for a minute because I brought out a few things that I thought you would find fascinating, like this. This is actually a microscoped look at fascia. So you can see, if you would see it in a video, and if you're interested, go to YouTube. There are so many videos now showing the movement of the fascia. It's absolutely fascinating. But you can see that it's gel-like. There's hydration in here. And whenever you move, the fascia moves along with it. It's absolutely amazing. Now, the fascia also has something that is called tensegrity, which I just call it's tension and integrity. It's how it holds us all up and keeps everything in place. And the tensegrity, what's interesting about this is, I love this geodesic dome. This was a Buckminster Fuller kind of contraption, that when you would push down on it in one place, it will come out in another place. Now, you'll understand why that's so important when we start to move and think about fascia. So if you have scar tissue or adhesions in one place in your body, and all of a sudden that starts to crink in, what's going to happen is it's going to have a reaction somewhere else in the body. So you might have noticed that sometimes you have pains in the body that move, or it's up in your left shoulder at one point, and then maybe down another time you'll have some pain over in the left hip, and you're like, man, what's that about? Why did it move? Well, it has to do with the fascia and the fascial adhesions. So again, I just wanted you to kind of get a sense of what does it look like. All right, now we're going to start by working in our hands using the wand, because that's the first part of our protocol, is it not? We're going to wand and heat that fascia in the hand, and then we're going to start to move and do some deep fascia stretches along with it to get the fascia moving, sliding and gliding, and what we call hydrating. So I thought it would be interesting, hopefully nobody's too squeamish, to actually look to see this is what the fascia in our hands actually looks like. Pretty wild. So I'm going to stop that now. Isn't that amazing? That's what's going on there. So I want to show you that idea too of the tensegrity in a second. So let's say that you're using your hands all the time. Maybe you have some carpal tunnel. Maybe you have arthritis. These are all things that can bind up and dehydrate in the fascia. So we looked at what that fascia looks like in the hand. So just kind of think about, if I'm doing this and I'm pulling the fascia, it gets dehydrated and it's pulling in on itself. What happens? I'm not doing that with my fingers. That's what's happening in the palm. It's going to pull your hands in. Okay, so a lot of carpal tunnel can be because that fascia is binding up, maybe through repetitive motion, to like overworking in there, and that's what tends to happen. Now, when that happens, you saw the fingers come in. What else happens when that happens? Well, you can start to get some restriction in the wrist. And when you get restrictions in the wrist, thinking about that, it's going to have potential issues up in your elbow. Maybe the elbow starts to pull in. And when that happens, something might happen up in your shoulder. So you can see that a lot of times we have, I'm just going to give this as an example. We have a hip pain. That's just a common one, right? And so we go to the massage therapist, the chiropractor, whatever, and oh, we have hip pain. And they're like, no problem, we'll work in the hip. And they'll do whatever they need to do, an adjustment or whatever in the hip. And it'll probably feel better for a little bit of time, but then it goes right back out. Or then maybe that pain moves to another place. And the reason for that is the pain isn't coming from the hip. The hip is the end range of what's happening somewhere else when the fascia is pulling. All right. So that's why it's so important to do the whole body. We do the hands, we do the feet, we do the lymph places, because by the way, the fascia and the lymph are integrally connected. So fascia is all through the lymphatic system. So if the lymph again gets sticky and tight, now we have stagnation in the lymphatic system. When that happens, We don't detoxify the body. And then we get inflammation and it goes all the way up the scale. I also just want to do a quick additional little thing that I find really fascinating. And you might have thought about this before or not, either way. So think about the hands and the feet. So they are very, very similar, almost like twin kinds of joints, right? We have the toes, we have the fingers, we have the wrist bone, and we have the ankles. That's sort of in between, right? Something happens to the fingers, the toes, and the foot, you're going to get an ankle issue. You twist your ankle. Oh my goodness, the ankle twists. And that's going to have an effect on your knee, right? Because now the knee doesn't track. And now the knee does this. And then the leg and the hip bone does this. And now we end up with hip issues. Same thing. So now we start working at the hip, when in reality, it could actually be the ankle. Well, it's the same thing. Fingers, wrist, elbow, shoulder joint. Oh, my shoulder's sore. Let's just work on the shoulder, which we will. But if it's actually coming from here, that's where you want to start. We call this the end ranges, all the way up. So just thought to give you a little bit of food for thought, especially if you have some pains that have been undiagnosed and you haven't really been able to get to root cause, just some additional things to think about. All right, so tonight there's so many places that we could do this and do these new fascia stretches, and I'm going to share with you how to do those in just a minute. But tonight I thought, let's just start, since we know we start with our hands anyway, and we're right here, we don't have to get up and down, we can do all this from a chair. We're going to start working hands and wrist on both, and then we're going to come up and we'll do neck and shoulders. So we're just going to focus a little bit on hands and the upper body so that you get an idea of how to do it. And then you can play with it, and we can always come back and do other body parts if you all find this interesting. All right. Now, one other thing to know, one or two things to know, and that is fascia responds best with heat. So we saw that there's like a jelly-like substance in the fascia, right, where it's sliding and gliding and it's like jelly in there. And so the first thing that we want to do is heat the fascia. Also think about this with athletes. You know, athletes, of course, they're always looking to have the best, your best performance. So there have been so many studies around how to stretch. Should they just stretch first before performance? And I'm talking about what we would consider more traditional kinds of stretching. And what would that be? Well, they're just stretching this out, right? Maybe getting down on the ground and stretching the legs straight out. And what they found was that didn't help. Actually, that decreased their performance. And one of the reasons is that when you just stretch in a normal, just get out there and just stretch like that, there is a beautiful protective mechanism in the body called the stretch reflex. And what that means is if you go to stretch and the brain says, oh my goodness, they're going to stretch, we don't want them to overstretch, because when you do that, you can overstretch ligaments, tendons, and fascia, right? And that's very difficult to heal, okay, because they're very tight. It's not a very elastic tissue. It's more plastic. So anyway, so what happens is as you do that, the brain says, no, bring it back in. The stretch reflex comes back at it. So it's kind of like putting on the gas and the brake at the same time, and you don't actually get a good stretch. So we know that that's not really our best. Now, a lot of times people have been doing the yin yoga, which I love and do that, where we get into a deep stretch and we just stay there and breathe into it. And that can be very helpful. Now, with athletes, what they're finding for them is they need to simply warm the body up to get the body ready to do their athletic performance. And so what they've been finding is just heating the body, maybe doing the same kinds of movements that they might do with their performance, but at a much lower level, just as a way to heat the body. So you're going to see this theme, the theme of heating the body to get the muscles to really move, but it's really more about getting that fascia to hydrate and move and start to slide and glide. All right. So tonight we're going to start heating the fascia with the wand, and then I'm going to show you how to do deep fascia stretches the way that we're now finding is most effective. All right. So everybody have your wand out. I'm going to go ahead and use my wand. Again, I'm using the premium just because it is a little quieter. All right, so that if you have a classic, it works perfectly. You do it. I would do it maybe on second or third setting. You want to use the heat. So I'm going to go ahead and turn mine on. And let's just start to wand the hands. That's where we're going to start. So I'm just going to do them in circles, just like we do. You can go clockwise, counterclockwise. I'm not going to worry so much about that right now. And I'm going to make sure I do my thumbs and all the different parts. I'm going to go on the back of the hands just because that feels nice. And we're going to be doing both of those. Seeing if you can feel the heat. Hopefully you can hear me over this. And I'm going to go right into my wrists as well. Right, so we want to get into that wrist joint for that fascia and into here. And remember last week with Dr. Kim, we were talking about specific acupuncture points on the ankles and above the ankles that are really powerful kidney points. And it's the same way here. Now, you all notice that I do have a thumb tremor. I'm hoping to get rid of that over time when I finally figure out where that is. So pardon the little thumb tremor. And I'm even going to go up here into the fascia of the forearm so I can warm all that up as well. And that's all you have to do. You're just going to warm this up, maybe go from the elbow on up this way, because you're going to be working the fascia all in here. And this whole thing is really just to get it warmed up and sliding and gliding. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn that off now. So you'll just notice hopefully a little bit of heat, maybe a little bit of energy rush there. All right, let's begin now the fascia stretch. I'm going to kind of turn a little bit to the side. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is wrist flexion and extension. Okay, so we're going to start working the fascia here. Now, let me share with you quickly how to do deep fascia stretches. It's going to be the same with all of them. And you can figure out, once you know the idea, you can do it with any part of the body. All right. So what we're going to be doing is we shorten the muscles and then we create resistance as we slowly bring it back up. And then we relax and come down. Let me show you. I think it's a little easier to start if you just notice your bicep. So if we go like this, we're shortening these muscle fibers. Okay, so that's the first part. You're going to shorten. Here's the activation part. You're now going to take your opposite hand or something else. I'm going to keep pressing this hand down towards that muscle. This hand is going to be pushing it the other way, okay? So I'm going to go from here. My arm is going down this way. My hand is creating resistance the opposite way as I'm opening it up, opening it up, opening it up, just to about the end range of motion. In any of these, if that's too much, you stop, you relax, and you bring it back in. That's the idea, okay? Shorten the muscle, create resistance against it, and then relax and come back and do it again. All right, that's how we do deep fascia stretches. So let's go ahead and try it now with the hand in the wrist. So we've warmed it up already. I'm going to start this way. So I'm going to put this hand down like this. Now, you don't want to do it with the fingers, and you're going to notice that's what the body's going to want to do. You're not going to do that. So I'm going to put my thumb here, hands here. That's just the easier way to do it. And you'll see that my hands are right here so that I don't do it with my knuckle. I want the whole hand to come up. So your fingers are down, the arm is down. You can relax here. And I'm going to use my thumb right about there at that knuckle area to push the hand up. So my hand is pushing towards my body. My thumb is giving it resistance the other way. And I'm going to start to just straighten it up, resist, 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 but not to the point of pain. So you want some activation, but if you're in pain, just go to the place where you have sensation. There we are. and drop it back down. We're just going to do 3 tonight just for time's sake. So once again, my hand is pressing in this way. I'm constantly pressing there. My thumb is pushing it the other way as I pull that hand up and away to here. And then I'm going to relax back down. All right, just one more time. Keeping those fingers, you're pressing that hand down. I'm going to activate. Now, notice what I just did. I lifted my shoulder, didn't I? I'm going to drop the shoulder down. That's what will happen. The body will try to create the path of least resistance. And I'm going to go up and then just shake the hand out a little bit. Notice how that feels. All right, so that was going that way. Now we're going to go the opposite way. Okay, so I'm going to put my arm back out, drop it down. And when you're sitting in the chair, you can go this way. I just think it's easier to see. And you do want to make sure that you have your spine lifted in a good way so that the rest of the body isn't taking that on. So see if you can get those fingers straight up. If that's too painful, because if you have some carpal tunnel, it might be, just go to wherever you can do it, okay? So I'm going to do it to here. And now I'm going to be pressing my hand this way, but I'm going to take it the other way. I think I'll go this way on this one. So my hand is pressing this way, sorry. You're going this way, I'm going the opposite way and taking it all the way on down. Ooh, and you might really feel that coming up. I feel that one much more than I feel the other one, but that's just me. We're all different and every one of our hands are different. So you do it to your place. So again, you're poking that way. The hand is pressing down that way. You're resisting it. Resist, resist. Ooh, resist, resist, resist. Yes, you can tell I'm feeling that greatly. And then relax it out. I'll go one more time. So ideally, you want to go about 3 to 5 times. All right, so last one, I'm pressing the hand back towards me and my fingers are allowing that to go right in there. You're going to feel that probably even up in your forearms there and into the shoulder joint all the way down. Woo! And shake that out. Wiggle the fingers. And just notice if you feel any different from one hand to the other. We're only going to do the one tonight. Again, just for time's sake, we'll do a little bit more upper body, but I just wanted to show you that for that one. All right. Now we're also going to do fingers. Okay. Let me grab, I have a little block so it'll make it easier for you to see. So we want to work on the fingers as well. I'm going to drop my camera a little bit so you can see this. So I'm just going to put it here. And by the way, you can also do this. It's really nice what I just did. If you have a table or something where you can drop your hand like this and use it that way and bring it back up. It's another nice way to do it. And you can also do it in different angles. So for example, maybe you want to do a karate chop angle. So you're going to push the karate chop that way, and I'm going to press away this way. So play with it, especially if this is an area that you find you have a lot of tension and pain in, any carpal tunnel. Play with it till you find your exact place. Now that you understand that you're going opposite, shortening the muscle, resisting against it, and then relaxing and coming back. All right, so here's fingers. Let's try some fingers. So first thing, you're going to just let it be level here. I'm going to lift my one pointer finger. I'm going to take 3 fingers of the other one. Now this finger is going to keep trying to pull up. These fingers are going to press down and then relax and bring it back up. 3 fingers. Resist, 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 and release. And then you can do it with each one. Resist, 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 pressing it up. Some of them might be really challenging and others won't be. Like this finger can barely lift. I find that interesting. So I'm trying to flatten my palm. I have to really even think about lifting that finger and then down, down, down. And then the pinky, the same thing. So you get how to do that one. Now we're going to go the opposite way. So now that finger is down. I'm going to go ahead and grab 3 fingers on that with the thumb here. I'm going to lift it up just a little bit, and I'm going to be pressing my finger down, but my hands are going to lift the finger up, and then I'm going to relax it down. Just lift it a little bit, pressing the finger down as you lift all the way up, and let it go. Let's just do the other one while we're here. Pressing the finger down, lifting it up and dropping it. Same thing on this one. And drop it. And the last one, pressing the finger down, lifting and letting it go. Again, now just notice, do the two hands feel different? Even just doing that little bit can make such a big difference. Last part, of course, is the thumb. And a lot of us can get some thumb tension right in here. Sometimes it can feel a bit like tendonitis. So different ways that you can work in the thumb depending on where you might be having some issue. So I'm going to put my thumb in like this. And I'm going to put my hand here. I'm going to press the thumb in towards the rest of the fingers as I push it away. And you can do it that way, and you'll see right in that web, and then bring it back. So that's a good way. You could do 2 or 3 fingers, pressing it away and then resist. Or if I have it this way, I can do the same thing. So I'm pressing my thumb down and the fingers are pulling it in. Down, pulling it in. How about this way? This way can be very challenging too. So the thumb is going to go in towards the palm, and I'm going to press it out and away. And then one more time, pressing it out and away. Again, you can do it the opposite way. Press that thumb out, hands here, and pull it in and back out. One more time. Pull it in and back out. And then again, and it's really nice to do some shaking. Now, the shaking really helps. It just moves the energy then back up and up the arm. So hopefully you guys can put down in the chat if you're feeling that. Does it feel any different to you? And especially if you have any carpal tunnel, let me know. Let's see how that feels to you. So we're just going to do that one side. You can play around with that now in all the different angles, however it feels to you. All right, so now let's go up and do neck and shoulders. Typically, this is where a lot of us hold so much tension. We also hold tension in the jaw, which there's ways to do that. We won't tonight, but just here, neck, shoulders, and up. I started with the hands because this is actually the end points of those meridians. So we wanted to get up there and work up in there. And now we can start here and you'll feel the difference. So everybody grabbing your wand, let's go ahead and heat up our neck. So just coming up into the neck area, maybe even a little behind the ears, behind the neck. So I'm not doing like the full protocol, just really trying to get some heat going on in there, in the neck. I might do right under the chin here and the other side of the neck. Good. And as you're doing this, maybe do a little bit of head roll and get a sense of how you're feeling here. Moving the heat, so when you're wanding and moving, the heat can really penetrate deep into there. Good. I might do the back of my neck a little bit. That'll feel good because we will be stretching in the back of the neck. And then I'm going to go right in here in the front of that shoulder joint in the pecs. Good. Maybe all up in here under the collarbone. Might as well go and do some armpit. You know, that's a nice big lymphatic point. So we're also moving some lymph. All up in here, feeling the heat penetrating deep into that shoulder joint. I'm going to move my shoulder here and go right into this. And if you don't have good flexibility or range of motion and you can't get to all this, you can just think about going here front and then just feel it in the back. So you're still getting it because we know it penetrates deep in there. So I'm going to go a little bit more. I'm going to go a little bit more right out here in the lats, because we're going to be doing that, and even over into that shoulder blade a bit. So just taking some time to really get that warmed up. And I'll go to the other side, up in the pecs. And if there's a place that's feeling a little more tense for you and you want to stay there, please do. Obviously, make all of this yours. I'm going to lift, do a little bit of circle here under the armpits. Saying hello to the lift up in the front of the pec. Good, up in that shoulder joint. I might turn this way. Oh, that feels good, doesn't it? Just warming all that fascia. We would say muscle, yes, muscle, but definitely the fascia, hydrating it all in. Beautiful. All right, so now we're nice and warm. Did you notice your body got nice and warm from that? All right, so let's start with the neck. Now, before we do that, something I want to share, you want to be on kind of the edge of your chair. Hopefully you'll have your feet level so that you feel good there. And I want you to also think just briefly about engaging your core. What do I mean by that? You're sitting on the edge there and almost like think about pulling up. So we call these the deep intrinsic muscles, almost like the perineum, if you're going to kind of stop your flow of pee, pardon me. So you're just going to kind of pull that up a little bit, engaging the core and making sure that you don't press or thrust your rib cage forward. A lot of us tend to do that. So you want to make sure that that rib cage is behind here because you want a good spinal alignment when you're doing this. All right, you guys, let's stretch our neck. Now, before you do that, do just a quick little neck rotation, just so you get a sense of what you're feeling now. Now that it's warmed up, the fascia is already warm. We've gotten some frequency in there. Good. All right, now we're going to do sides. So before we do that, I want you to take your chin. I'm going to say tuck the chin. The chin tuck is not here. Most of us have a forward head jut where we're like this because everything in our world is in front of us. So I want you to think about pulling the chin back towards the throat. Like give yourself that ugly little double chin. It's not beautiful, but it works for this. So you're going to keep that chin tucked back and then just tilt the head to one side. So what are we doing here? We're shortening these muscles, aren't we? So we're shortening on this side. You'll feel a lengthening on this side. And we're going to work on the fascia on that shortened side. So from the shortened side, keeping the chin back, you're just going to take your hand on your head like this gently. And when we do neck, you want to create resistance, but you don't have to go real hard. These are very tiny little fragile vertebrae. So right here, you're pressing your hand into your head, creating that resistance. The head will continue to try to press that way against the hand, hands against head. And you're going to bring the head all the way up. You can come straight up. You can go a little bit over to one side if you want. And then tucking the chin, bring it back again to this side. And here we go again. You know, many of us especially think about when you're sleeping. Some of us tend to sleep always on one side with the head tilted. And that's like, 6 to 8 hours of having it one way. So this side can always be kind of crunched in. That side can be lengthened and weak. So this is a beautiful way to balance it. Let's just go one more time. Drawing the chin back, tilting, and you might notice that already you have a little bit more range of motion. Create that resistance hand to head and bring it all the way back up and maybe over just a little bit more and then bring it there. And just notice how that feels, even in that neck and shoulders. Let's go to the other side, tucking the chin back, engaging the core, tilting the other way. Notice what it feels like on this side now. Here we go, giving it some pressure. It's going to feel very different. One side will not feel the same as the other typically. And my head's going that way as my hand's creating resistance. And up we come. And let's go again. Dropping the chin, coming on over. You might also want to really make sure that you're not coming forward with the shoulder. So the shoulder retracts back, hand to the head, create that resistance. Head's going this way, hand the other way. So you're just getting some good sensation in there as you come all the way up. You might even want to go over just a little bit more and come back. Tucking the chin. Let's go one more time. Tilting it directly over. Shoulders, rib cage, hand, and bring it all the way back up. And notice. Good. And just notice right off. Isn't that amazing? Like right off, I'm like, wow, I got a lot more range of motion out of that. Beautiful one to do. You can do it daily, you know, especially if you're sitting or maybe you slept wrong and you have a crink in your neck. Now you have a great way to wand, heat, and then stretch. All right, so that's side to side. How about back and forth? All right, so from this one, go ahead and tuck that chin back again. And then you're going to, and think about it from your nose, keeping the chin down, just tip up a little bit, a little diagonal. Intertwine your fingers and put your hands behind your head to support it. Good. Elbows are up. So now the chin is tucked. You're looking up. You're going to press your head gently into your hands. So the head is going to press back. The hands are pressing into the head. And we're going to slowly start to come forward. You can bring the elbows in gently, and you're again keep pressing the head against the hand against the head as you drop all the way down. At the very end, you're going to feel that beautiful stretch right behind the neck. Relax the tension and come back up. Wow, nice, right? Tuck the chin. Lift the head back just a little bit at a diagonal. Press the head gently into the hands. Again, you can bring the elbows in and slowly use the tension to come forward. Feeling that. Are you feeling it more on one side of the neck than the other? See if you can balance it. As you come all the way down, release the tension and come back up. Let's just do it one more time. This is such a good one. Tucking the chin, lifting the head slightly. Good. Make sure again that you're not doing that, right? You're not pressing your rib cage forward. Everything is stacked. That's another thing that the body will tend to do again. Instead of going right where you're wanting it, it will shift out a little bit. So you have to kind of pay attention to that, keeping your mind in the muscle. You might notice that you've gotten even more range of motion that third time and release. Woo! Did anybody get hot? I find when I start to do these, because that's deep core muscle along with the heat, you might start to get hot. So just notice, already feeling better. So that was a back. How about if we come forward? All right, so this is a nice one. I really love doing this one. I'm going to take this hand and I'm going to put it, can you see that, up and around my head, holding on to the top of the head. The elbow is here. Good, and you can bring it in. So again, you're going to be starting low, okay? You're tucking it under and now lifting. So the hand is pressing against the head as the head is pulling forward, and bring it up. Very nice. Let's go again. Drop the chin down. It's still tucked back. Hand is here. The head's coming up and the hand is pressing down. And up you come. You can even go a little bit the other way. Nice. And let's go one more time. Dropping that head down. Good. Pulling it back up. And this way, I really love this one because as I pull it up, I can almost kind of come forward a little bit and stretch out the back of that neck. And if you don't feel that, don't worry about it. It's all good. And let it go. All right. So now give yourself some head roll. How does that feel? Let me know, you guys. Put that in the chat if you can feel a little bit of release there. I'd love to hear. Whew. Nice. All right. So we've warmed up the neck and shoulders. I might go and blow again just because, you know, we've done something else, but I'm not going to for right now, just for time's sake. Let's get into a little bit more shoulders now. So this is another beautiful one. I want you to bring your hands up like this, right about your nose. Shoulder are down. The elbows can be a little below. And once you're here, bring those hands out in front of you, just a little bit, like at a diagonal. The elbows can be out like this. Now you're pressing the hands in towards each other. And now you're going to shoulder blades down, bring those elbows in. So you're pressing the palms, the elbows are coming in. See what you feel across the back of your arms and the back of the shoulders, and then release on out. Let's do another one. Pressing it in, Ooh, you might feel it in the pecs. You might feel it across the back, and release. If you have any pain, stop and adjust, okay? This was actually the move I was doing when I was like, ooh, I got some kind of a crink in the one arm, and I took out my wand and blew it, and it really made a difference right in here. I know I have some issues kind of going in on that. Might be partly what's going on with the thumb. And pull it in, and then release out, and again, shake it. The shaking really just helps move everything and all the energy out. Starting to feel good, I'm hoping. All right, so now I'm just going to do one more, you guys, and this is going to be more to get into across those shoulder blades. The shoulder blades are tight because we tend to hold a lot of tension there right underneath that shoulder bone, and the fascia tends to really lock up. So it's a great place to go in and wand. And if you can't get it on your back, you can just go forward here and just blow right into here and visualize it right behind that shoulder blade. All right, so now I'm just going to bring this arm up like this, contract. I'm going to take this other arm across right at the elbow, shoulders down, engage your core. So pull everything in and up. Make sure that the rib cage is rolled back, and now press that elbow into the hand. So the elbow will be going that way. The hand's going to press you this way. Shoulders are down, and start to feel that. I'm going to drop mine down a little bit. Really stay connected to what you're feeling. So you adjust as you go. Like for me, I want to pull my elbow away a little bit, and there I got right into it. And then release and come back. Try not to let the whole body go with it. So you want to stay kind of connected, engaging core. And here we go. I'm pressing that hand away, shoulder blades down, pulling, pulling, pulling. Now notice that other arm is getting a nice workout. So this is also a strengthening workout as well as fascia release. See how I was turning? I'm going to bring my body back. And then release. Nice. Let's go to the other side. Notice how you're feeling now right there through that mid back. All right, other side, elbows up. I'm going to shoulder blades down, engage the core, bring my hand over towards that elbow. I'm going to press this hand away as I pull it in and across the body. Oh, yeah, and I am getting hot, you guys. I don't know about you. Oh, and bend it out. Dan says, what if you push against the hand? Push against the hand instead of pulling. Yeah, that's actually, I guess, what I'm doing, pushing and pulling. So my arm is trying to resist that way. My hand is pulling this way. So I'm not sure that I'm answering the question, but just trying to share how to do it. And there's no wrong way to do it, but shortening the muscle fiber and then lengthening. That's essentially what you're doing. So by doing this, I'm shortening in the back those muscles that attach to that shoulder blade. So that's a contraction. I'm shortening it back. You can even pull it back a little bit. And now I'm going against it, okay, as I'm lengthening it back one more time, pressing against as I come across. And you can even go down, like that might be your place, right? You can start up higher and press it down. Ooh, that's a good one. So you play with it. You see where your place is. What do you need? You could even go here. Take the arm up. It's pressing up. Your hand is pressing down, and maybe go down and pull it back and away. That just gets into another place. That felt good. I might do that one on this one. So here up. So again, I'm resisting the elbow that way, and my hand is going the other way, and I'm pulling on it and down and around. So for me, that feels really good. I'm getting right into a place that I needed to have some release. Woo! You guys, I'm sweating. Anybody else sweating? So just go ahead and do this. Hand on the elbow, located inside of elbow instead of outside, pushing against the elbow. No, that's the opposite way, Dan. You have to think about shortening. You're trying to shorten it. Shorten first, and you keep that. opposite way. I'm not saying it's wrong or bad. It's just not exactly the same technique that I'm sharing with you here. So play with it. Maybe for you that would work well. Now, the last thing that I want to do for this is, and do this, nobody else can see you, I'm just going to lift up, is something that is been done in Qigong, ancient Chinese Qigong, which is shaking. So now that we've done all that, the shaking is so cool. So all I'm doing, you can't really see me, but I'm just lifting, just bending my legs and shaking. Shake the whole body, bend up and down, shake. Shake out the hands, shake out the shoulders. Let the whole body just move and shake. And I know at first when I show this to people, they're like, they look around, they're like, is anybody watching me? This feels really weird. But I'm telling you, this really moves the energy. So it moves the energy from everything that we just did, rehydrating, and it's also pumping the lymphatic system. And it's really nice if you can now lift the heels and just drop the heels. So as you just do a gentle heel lift and just shake, that is a great way to pump the lymph and get everything moving. I like to shake my hands, kind of flap them, shake the elbows. You might even want to lift a leg and shake it, lift your feet, and then pause. Take a nice deep breath in and out and just pause. Let the arms settle, let everything settle, and just feel. And you're going to be blown away. Like right now, I feel a lot of heat and tingling, especially in my hands, but all through the body because we just moved everything. So hopefully you got a little bit or a lot of release out of that. Let me drop the camera. So love to hear from you guys. If anybody wants to either just talk or turn on their cameras, that would be awesome. Bobblehead. Yeah, that's good. Oh, Julie, I'm so glad that's felt good in your hands. Beautiful. The hands are huge. Some of us don't have hand issues, but just think everybody that we're typing all the time, massage therapists, gardeners, crocheters, all that repetitive stress really can be traumatic to the fascia. So just heating them, just heating it actually feels really good, doesn't it? Just wanding there. But when you heat and do the stretches, it's just amazing. Electricians, thanks, Dan, I'm sure, because you're always there using the hands. I didn't even think about that. Beautiful. All right, you guys, does anybody have anything you'd like to and you feel free to unmute and come out and just share your experience with that, how you're feeling in those necks and shoulders? All right, not too many. Okay.
I was asking Renee about the question of position of the hands, because in my whole life in sports training, it was always going long side, press against, and then shorten instead of going from shorten to long.
Right.
So it's just a different philosophy, a different approach, but it's also a different feeling.
Right.
Than the other. This is not as much a in the sports. It's more of a muscle pull and tension pull than the fascia pull.
Right. This is a fascia release specifically, not muscle. Now, muscle actually, I mean, through every muscle fiber is fascia. So if your fascia is bound up, you're not really getting into muscle. We think we are. A lot of times we think it's muscle pull or whatever, when really it's just bound fascia. So it's kind of finding the differences and using it in that way. But so yes, very good. And these are just, it's a very specific technique designed to help because the fascia needs contraction. And the more you contract, even if you just do this is a beautiful, what we call in general somatic yoga, pandiculation, which was coined by Thomas Hanna. You hunch, you squeeze. So again, you're shortening the muscle fibers and then you slowly release. Now, this doesn't have any assisted activation, but you slowly release and relax. And that works beautifully too. That's very, a lot of this work is also very neurological, because the fascia also has all those nerve endings. It's also part of our body's whole communication system. So when the brain says something, the brain to the body, all those transmissions go through the fascia. So again, if there's bound places, there's not communication, there's not oxygen and nutrients. We get big binds there energetically. That's, I believe, one of the huge reasons that the wand is so helpful, because it gets in there and it unbinds that fascia. That's a whole idea of, let's open up the energy channels. Let's unbind the fascia. Let that energy start to run through. Let that fascia hydrate and open so that the communication can come through, so oxygen and nutrients can come in there. I like to kind of think about it as well, almost like the fascia is like a sponge. So it's like when we're contracting, contract, shorten, it's almost like we're squeezing all the junk out. And then as we come back up and release, now we allow oxygen, nutrients, energy to flow. So it's squeeze it out, open it, and allow it to come out. And so we use that with the frequency, with the heat, and with the stretches.
That's a great visual. That's a great visual.
Good, thank you.
With that sponge. That's really nice.
Yeah, and it's true. That's what the fascia requires to get healthy and just to keep working. And so you guys too, there might be times when you can't go to that end ridge. Like maybe you can only tip your head if you had like sleeping and you really, you wake up with a bad crank. Maybe you can only go to here and then you do it. That's fine, perfect. And then go the other way, because typically we have very specific movement patterns that we do all day long. And that's a big problem, or a cause of a lot of our pain, is because we don't move in lots of different ways. And I know Dan will agree with me. So much of the science says that to be really healthy and functional from a fitness standpoint, you need to move in all the different planes of motion. We call it novel movement. The fascia needs, the whole body really needs to move all different ways, right? So when we just do the same thing, like all we do is run, and we have very specific movement patterns in our running, that's why that constant repetitive thing, we can tend to get injured. Maybe one foot starts to turn in, or the ankle gets bound up, and then the knee rolls in, and then the hip, and then, but we love to do our running, but we do it the same way, and then we end up with injury. That's why in my classes as well, I like to do all kinds of different things. We don't do the same thing ever the same day, the same way. We want to do forward motions, side motions. You want to go diagonally, move the body all the different ways. And that way the fascia is able to hydrate and get moving all the different ways as well. It doesn't bind up from that constant repetitive motion. So hope that helps as well. Go ahead.
So when we talk about spinal disc, vertebrae disc, and we talk about fascia being integrated through all the bones and all the discs, and we look at a herniated disc. Now, herniated disc is due primarily as a function of pressure between the spine. Right. So when we look at using fascia to help extend the spinal elongation, allowing that disc to reabsorb and rehabilitate. So how do you do that with your pressure and movements? And I mean, as we do with our head, we shorten, and then we press. So is there a movement that might help us?
That would be very specific to the person. And I don't really want to say that, because I don't want somebody to try something that's not right for them. But what you are talking about is when that fascia dehydrates in between those vertebrae, right? Because we haven't moved, or from trauma or accident or injury, that's what happens. So to be able to get, the frequency in there, hydrate and heat it, and then start to move in whatever way is appropriate for that person and that injury at that time, right? But yes, that's what happens. That fascia has become dehydrated or whatever is happening there with each person. It's different for each person, but yeah, absolutely. So it can absolutely be helped and I believe healed, or at least people can definitely get some relief of pain and inflammation.
Very good.
Great, you guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Use this, and I would love to hear your experience with it. And if you're interested and you let me know that this was good, we can also go and do some other classes on hips and knees, etc., using that same idea, because you can do it with everything.
Can I ask you one more? So we talked about a couple of weeks ago, we talked about using the stick as a warm up and stretching out fascia. And then they've come out with the different kind of massage kind of guns and massage tools. When you use these massage tools, you say you put pressure on the fascia one way and then it's going to go somewhere else. It's going to
No, actually, I think what you're talking about is like that, the trigger gun, the guns and the
Yeah.
rollers and all that. That's all beautiful work. It's all releasing the fascia, same thing. So if you're doing rolling, myofascial release, the fascia blaster, anything like that, rolling on that. Yeah, what's happening is you're rolling, you're trying to get in there, contracting and shearing, trying to get it sheared up, that fascia sheared up and away from whatever it is that it's sticking with. Right, absolutely, all those things work, and you can use those again. Wand first. Why? Because you want to get that fascia heated, and then do your roller work, do your fascia blaster, do your rolling the foot on the ball, but heat it up first. Use heat and frequency, and then do it. So to me, this is just like amazing, because you're adding that aspect to it and then using more of a physical, mechanical way to do it. I didn't want to get into that with all the different tools, just because, you know, you can do it with just yourself in your hand. We don't always have a tool available to us to do it in the middle of the day, right? So if you're finding that that's challenging, your hand's challenging, yeah, you can roll the hand on the ball or whatever, but you can also just use that technique to help it. But it all is beautiful work, and it's all designed to help hydrate that fascia, get it unbound, get it moving again, sliding and gliding. Sliding and gliding. Thanks, Dan. That was a great question. I appreciate that one. All right, you guys, let me go ahead and I'm going to turn the recording